We'll let you know as soon as we're live. It is working. Everybody make sure to mute when you're not answering questions, unmute when you go to answer. Miss MC Moondust is your moderator, and we are live. Have fun.
Thank you. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to this RTC panel on mythology. Thank you to our beautiful authors for showing up today. So without further ado, I'll let everyone introduce yourself. If you can let us know what mythology are included in your writing, that would be great. So we'll start with Jen Thompson.
Why do I always get picked first? Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Thompson, or Jay Thompson. I write paranormal romance and sci-fi romance, and my debut series, a soulmate series, is Greek mythos based. I also have myths and legend flowing into all of my other stories, but my Greek one is my favorite. So yeah, that's me. Hi.
We'll go to Marianne after, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marianne Morea, coming to you from New York. And my mythology runs the gamut between vampires and witches and werewolves and all of the folklore and the mythology that comes from that. But I also have heaven and hell, angels and demons in the Blessed series, which unfortunately right now only has the first book in the series, My Soul to Keep. And I have created a 10th choir of angels and a 10th circle of hell. And I have in the story, it's basically the Archangel Michael and Lucifer before he fell to earth. And then after they fell to earth, it's because of a girl and, an angel. And her name is Celestine. So yeah, getting in the mix there with the angels too. So that's me.
Thank you very much. That sounds really interesting. Alexa, would you like to go next, please?
Hey, I'm Alexa Gregory. I am I write paranormal romance sliding into urban fantasy. I'm here today because I have a series out that has the Judeo-Christian mythology of heaven and hell, pulling a little bit from Arabic, and also the supernatural folklore of the world. So like mostly like European, but pulling heavily from that folklore with like the witches and demons and vampiric lore and all that. So that's me.
Super. Thank you very much. Jennifer.
Hi. A lot of my gods and stuff are co-written with Sheri, so she'll probably go into that because she used it more on her side of our story. But the second book we're writing in our Can You Save Them, Can You Protect Them series, we're using Egyptian gods, Anubis and Amet. And then I have a twist on zombies. I've done werewolves and stuff, the typical shifter mythology folklore. And witches, of course, I've done witches, and we'll be doing more of those coming next year. So I think that's everything.
Awesome. Sherilyn, thank you for joining us. I think you're muted. You find the unmute button? No? So it's a meme your answer day? Yeah. All right, well, we'll let you figure that one. We'll skip to the next question for now. First question, what was the first myth or legend that used to fascinate you as a child? What started it all for you? So we'll start with Marianne.
Okay. Wow. Okay. You didn't give me a chance to even think about that. The first myths. Well, first of all, I was raised Roman Catholic, so heaven and hell was always a very big deal. It was very something that was used to scare as well as to make you walk the line, so to speak. I went to Jesuit college. So even though I had gotten involved in witch mythology, Wicca, witchcraft, and so forth, by that point, it was still very much part of my life. So yeah, I'd have to say that the very first thing that scared the hell out of me was hell, being Catholic. But besides that, it was just fascination with what ifs and so forth that kind of fed that. I mean, something like, I don't want to liken it to roadkill, but it's like, when something scares you so much and you're fascinated by it and you want to look away, you want to turn the change the channel or go like this, but yet you can't stop looking at it. You can't stop reading it. You can't stop thinking about it. Well, finally, I just turned all that fear and worry and anxiety into what ifs, and from there into stories that, for romantic suspense. And now, just thinking about this, now I understand why my stories tend to be so fucking dark. It's because of that. I am a warped person because of it. Thank you, Catholic Church. So anyway, that's me.
Well, thank you for the creative aspect of it, I guess, right? All right, Jennifer, your turn.
Which one of us? I assume you're grown by Jen, so I'll go. I honestly can't think of anything. I think it was maybe witches, learning about like the Salem witch trials and stuff in history, but I don't know. As I got older, zombies always fascinated me, all different variations. So when I started writing, that's why I did a twist on it. But I couldn't tell you as a kid. I don't know.
Alexa?
Sorry, my phone just fell over. Okay, so like Marianne, mine probably started with going to church. I was super bored in church when I was a kid. I'm like the 3-year-old turning in my seat to like give like the parishioners behind me like the, because I was that bored. But when I started paying attention a lot when they were talking about Satan and Lucifer. And I remember I was a kid, I was very young, and that whole like thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, for whatever reason the priest said that, and I was like, wait, what about witches? What does it have to do with anything? And my mind just started going and ran with all these possibilities. So when I got home, I took out my little encyclopedia set and I started reading it, and that's when I discovered the Spanish Inquisition and the burning of heretics, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So I started looking into Satan and Lucifer and his story of like how, he wanted fairness, so he was punished at a time where, if you were educated, you had power. So I was just like, whoa, the links are all there. And I'm like this kid who's like 8, fascinated with all things darkness. So if you would ask me, hey, Alexa, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, you know what? I want to be a vampire princess. That's what I want to do with my life. So for me, it's always been very interwoven into my personality, like my fascination with myths and why we believe certain things and what could it mean historically and what was going on at that time. So my mind kind of reels with it, but that's essentially my answer.
Awesome. Sheri Lynn, did you can you make it work?
Oh
yeah, it worked.
I think I did. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm on my phone because my grandmother fell, so I was over trying to help her. And I kind of forgot about this until I got a call a couple minutes ago, so I'm running a little frazzled here. I did miss the question that we're supposed to be answering right now, though.
Okay, well, the first one was to introduce yourself and tell us what kind of mythology you have in your stories. And the second question, what was the first myth or legend that used to fascinate you as a child?
Okay, well, I'm Sheri Lynn. I write, all my books are male. I've got demons, I've got Norse mythology gods, and then with the one with Jennifer with the Egyptian gods. Yeah, I just like to do different, so I have different shifters, like goat shifters and things like that. I like the stuff that are kind of out there. What fascinated me? I think I've always just been into I think the Norse mythology is actually what first got me into it. And then I just went from different gods and goddesses from there, and the idea of different versions of heaven and hell and things like that.
Very nice. Thank you. All right, Jen, your turn.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Okay. I'm a nerd. And at a very young age, I loved dinosaurs. So you can probably guess where this is going. The Loch Ness Monster fascinated me. How something like that big could survive. Was it true? And all that. And then that just escalated into other myths like the Yeti, Bigfoot, mermaids, vampires. And then my mum introduced me to Egyptian mythology as a kid, because my mum was studying it at the time. It was one of her dreams to become an Egyptologist, which she never actually got to do. So watching my mum learn about the gods and the way they prepared the dead and things like that was just so fascinating. And then from then I moved on to the Greek gods. And currently now it's Norse gods because I'm covered in tattoos of them. And I've just done my rune diploma, and I'm also hoping to do a course in cryptozoology, which is going into your mythological beasties. But yeah, I'm one of those open-minded people where I will literally not believe everything. I'm not gullible. Does that make sense? But I'm open to ghosts. I'm open to angels, to anything that's supernatural. I will believe it unless you prove it to me scientifically that it's wrong. There's something else there, and that's always been my inner belief. I'll stop rambling now.
That's super interesting. Thank you very much. So we'll go see you if we have questions, and you'll be our source or go-to person. So next question. When and how have you come to include these myths in your writing? Did you start writing these as a kid in high school, or did it come further because someone challenged you to it? Let's see how it went. So let's start with Sherilyn this time.
I didn't start writing until 6 years ago. I love to read, and I read anything, but writing wasn't something that I felt that I had any ability to do, or never even thought of doing. So I kind of came into it really late. Jennifer was the writer of the two of us, and I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know how to answer that one.
All right, no problem. Well, Jennifer then.
Yeah, it's funny she says I'm the writer. I wrote as a kid and then didn't touch it again until like a year ago. And that was by severe peer pressure. So it really means nothing. And as for how I brought it in, when my sisters were creating the town of Block Hollow, they had this town map and they had all these creatures and everything. And I saw a zombie that owned an Italian restaurant. And I was like, I don't care if I've never written anything and you don't know that I can do it. I want that zombie. I want to write this story. And from there, it progressed to I did The Witch. And then we went to the serial killer series, and she brought a god in. And I've always been, like Jen, fascinated with Norse mythology. I kind of dated a guy in high school that he looked like he was from Norway. I mean, he just had that whole aesthetic look, and he was fascinated with them. So I, did my senior paper on them, and it's always been a thing I've researched. But I don't tend to write them that often, just because for a little while there, they were so many people were doing it. So that's why with our second book, we went with the Egyptian god of Ammit and Anubis. I think that's who we're using.
Awesome. Thank you. Alexa?
So I started writing before I even knew how to write. Like I would scribble in notebooks and then line up all my teddy bears and be like, telling them the story. And it was always about magic and all kinds of folklore, because that's what fascinated me. And also there was a show when I was a kid. Now, don't ask me what it was called, but it was Papyrus. But of course, like I'm French Canadian, so this was something I watched in French, and it was all about this little boy who was going up against the Egyptian gods. And it fascinated me. So again, with my little encyclopedias, I read a lot of that. And so I was always writing something that had to do with magic or gods or vampires or witches, all that stuff. And I actually went to a high school with an art program, and I was in the writing program for 4 years. So and I remember my teacher was like, okay, you need to stop writing about like ghosts, witches, the haunted stuff. Like you need to write something that's grounded in reality just to challenge yourself. And I was like, but reality sucks. Like I'd rather be in like the folklore magical places. So for me, it's always just been what fascinates me and what I want to write and what just comes to me more organically.
Nice. Well, that was a boring teacher. So, all right, Jen, your turn.
I'm a bit the same as Sheri. I didn't really start writing until about 6 years ago. Didn't think I could do it. I read a hell of a lot. I'm a PNR junkie. But I read PC Cast's Goddess Summoning series and I fell in love with every single book. And it made me realize that I can write weird shit. So you've got your mainstream vampires, shifters, and then you've got our little offsets of weird crap, as I've been told to call it, which isn't your mainstream. And I thought that's what I enjoy the most, is my weird crap. So I wanted to give the gods, the Greek gods, their own stories. Instead of having Zeus as a stuck-up twat who womanizes and Hades a beastly guy of the underworld, I wanted to give them their happily ever afters. So it was kind of how I wanted these gods to be. And to be honest, that's how I do with all of the myths. I try and turn the myths a little bit on their head just to make it that little bit different. And that everybody deserves a happy ever after. Come on.
And that's why we write romance. What about you, Marianne?
Well, I'm like Alexa. I've always been a scribbler. Part of it comes because I was a very lonely kid. I like to look at myself now and I see the fact that I write characters that are bigger than life because I wasn't. In high school, I had friends up until the 8th grade because I went to a very small Catholic grade school. But then when I went to high school, it was a huge, huge high school in the Bronx. And I was basically invisible. So I started inventing these worlds and started writing, to try and entertain myself, but also to escape being invisible and escape being lonely. But I was fascinated with the witch trials, and I was fascinated with the Inquisition, just like Alexa was saying, and how things were done in the name of supposedly righteousness and goodness. Meanwhile, it was just intolerance. And, and I kind of felt like that because being invisible in school and just kind of being passed over for everything, it was something that kind of resonated with me. So I started writing, but it always had a paranormal slant. It always had a supernatural slant. Because it was, at first it was because, like I said, I'm dark and twisty. It always had if I could do this, man, zap, you'd be snatched bald-headed, or, those big ass boobs of yours, from now on. I mean, it was just a way for me to feel like I could have a voice and be heard, but at the same time, exact a little vengeance on people who deserve to get a little bit of a smackdown. So, I mean, that was part of it too. But then as I grew up and I started to come into my own as an adult and own my own voice and own my own curves and everything about me, and learned how to work it and and that confidence was the sexiest thing that a woman could have. I'm such a different person now where I am here at middle age, and even for the last 25 years or so, just such a different person than I was in the first 25 years of my life. So I'm grateful to that creative entity that lives within me and gnaws at my insides until books are written, because it helped me blossom. I have a hard exterior, like I call it the sweet hard candy outside and mushy on the inside, sweet and mushy on the inside. But that's just left over from when I was a teenager, that protective shell. But it comes through in my books because my heroines are all, sort of kick-ass. I don't write Too Stupid to Live. And if I do ever write Too Stupid to Live, I need one of my readers to tell me that I've written somebody who's too stupid to live, because I will kill her off literally in the book and in my head. So anyway, so that's how I started, was as an escape for myself and as a protectant for myself.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Let's see, how close do you guys stay from the original myth or legends? And what have you added or modified to your story? If you can give us some example. Let's start with Jennifer.
I think I put a twist on all of them. My zombies are not reanimated. There were cursed humans that as they aged, they resembled like the movie zombies. But when they were young, they were just silver skinned and there really no difference. My witches, I mean, I didn't do a whole lot different with that. They were, I mean, I just kind of left the witches similar to, you know, what most people write. I think the biggest thing we did was with the book we have coming out, Sheri and I, we made Amit go on her own for her search for souls. She's tired of waiting for them to be brought to her to give to Anubis to be weighed. So she kind of went on her own. So I think that's really the biggest twist I've done. Yeah, I think.
Great. Alexa?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of the creatures we do write about, so like witches, zombies, vampires, all that, they are not culturally specific, but if you look into mythologies from like 3000 before Christ, like you'll find a version of them. I don't know if anybody knows this, but randomly, zombies are actually very prevalent in Arabic lore for whatever reason. They're demons. And I only mention this because I have something in the works that's releasing in the next few months. But anyway, I don't want to give anything away because a lot of my readers are watching this right now and I don't want to spoil anything, but it really depends on what you see as the prevalent myth of something. I mean, these creatures have been around since basically humans started to question the meaning of, you know, well, what does it mean that the sun comes up? So it's definitely difficult to say like, oh, like, you know, what I did was original. I'm sure that like there's some mythology somewhere that vaguely resembles what I'm doing, right? The only thing that I ended up that can think of the biggest twist is that excuse me, a lot of vampire lore has a vampire being made by a sire. And I basically stole that concept and applied it to my witches who have a demonic grandsire. So that means that after the fall, after the war in heaven, demons or, you know, demonesses were having children with humans and they became witches and warlocks, and we understand them in the world that I created. And so they have a demonic grandsire or siress. And these families, these warlock and witch families, are very much proud of their demonic heritage, even if they tend to forget. So it's like, well, you know, my grandsire is a primus, so like the first tier of high demon, or, you know, yours is just a tertium, so I can't marry you. So there is like that hierarchical sort of system within the angels and demons. I do tend to keep that just because I find it's an interesting conflict to add. I mean, caste systems are global, and why not have them in what I write? And yeah, that's pretty much it. I just, you know, it is really cool for me anyway, to like take Satan or Lucifer and be like, what if he was the good guy? You know, and I kind of flash forward to one of my university courses that I took, and my professor had this thing where it was a sticker and it said Eve was framed, and a lot of my you know, earlier things that I was writing that I'll never release because I was young and I was my craft was not developed at all, but a lot of it was on the basis of Eve, and therefore women were framed as like the evil temptresses of the world. And like, what if, you know, what Lucifer did was the good thing? So I operate on that a lot too, like in my fundamental sort of core beliefs when I'm crafting my stories that happen in my universe called Nocturna, for nocturnal creatures. Anyways, I have bladdered on. I'm just gonna stop.
You just answered like the next 3-4 questions, but that's okay. We'll come back to it. Marianne.
Okay, twists, huh? Well, my witches are basically, you know, what I learned when I was actually in a coven. And a practicing witch, you know, the rule of 3 and what you put out there comes back to you threefold. You know, you come from the point of light as opposed to darkness, but that there is darkness out there. So you have to take whatever smut's going to be on your soul if you decide to play in the dark. But I also gave them a little twist, whereas real witches in today's world, they don't, they can't wiggle their noses and make things happen. I mean, it's just not, well, I don't know. I believe it's out there, but nobody's proved me otherwise, like it was said before. But for the most part, it's whatever spellcraft you do, it has to do with intention and the universe and just being able to harness that power to manifest whatever it is that you want. But with my angels and my demons, the 10th choir of angels was created because I had wanted in my world the angels to have a little taste of human love and human emotion. And so in my book, they were created to give that. And of course, one of the human emotions is revenge. So and jealousy. So that's where the fight between the Archangel Michael and between Lucifer came. But in my book, Lucifer's not a bad guy. He just got a bad rap. Michael, everybody sees the Archangel Michael as this long-haired buff guy with the sword of war, the warrior of God. Well, in my book, he's this puny little guy that's got long blonde hair, but he's he's skinny, he's kind of like, heroin chic, and until he draws the sword. And when he draws the sword, then he becomes, I guess it's like leftover from those Saturday morning cartoons, when what was it, Hera and Shira or whatever their names were. Anyway, so yeah, I give a little bit of twist to things. I kind of keep them what I've learned, what I knew, and then just kind of make it my own, adding my own feel on things. Like with my vampires, they're predators basically, and they're overcoming their own and looking for absolution at the same time. So, and that absolution is, can I be loved? Am I worthy of being loved? Can I be loved even though I am what I am? And, that kind of harkens back to what I was talking about before too. When you're growing up and you don't fit the mold that people have made for you. And growing up in New York, it was very much the did you fit the trend? I was a teenager in the 80s, and I remember my first year of high school, and my second year of high school, that movie 10 came out, with Bo Derek back in the day. And yes, I'm aging myself, but she was this gorgeous woman with all of these braids and so forth. I can't tell you how many of the plastics came home from spring break wearing that look, and I did not fit that mold at all. So it was a matter of trying to find something that, am I worthy of this love? Being who I am, what I look like. Do I need to look for absolution? No, I don't. I'm not the one who's drinking the blood. They are. So you can be beautiful on the inside and beautiful on the outside and ugly on the inside. And I put that in my books too. So, oh my God, it's like cathartic.
Well, it's deep, and thank you for sharing all those honest view and experience. So, Jen, your turn.
Do I stick close to it? In a way, yes. But like with my Soulmate series, I had a series that decided to appear. A character called Cupid, who everybody knows, but I've tied in Cupid and Aphrodite. So instead of Cupid being his own entity and Aphrodite being her own entity, I had it so Cupid was created when Aphrodite couldn't deal with everything, all the power that she had, all the love that she had. She couldn't deal with it. So she created an offshoot, which was Cupid. So he's basically her son, but she's like, no, hell no. He's like, no, she's not my mother, not doing this. And he's the biggest dick on the planet. He talks to his penis. He calls it Pedro. He is the biggest knob on the planet, but he is the best character I've ever written. And because of him, I now have the Tears of Havoc series, which are the Cupid Tales. So Cupid's essence was basically him interfering in mortal lives with his tears of Cupid, which can bring out the inner goddess in any woman. So it makes her see what she really wants. So a woman that's attracted to a certain guy and really wants his attention, it won't attract him. It'll attract everybody else. So he will see her and realize, and it's kind of like the whole misdirection. So in Cupid's essence, you've got Belinda, who's a librarian with an obsession for perfume bottles, and Mike, the mechanic, with a stutter. And Cupid gets involved, wearing literally a pair of jogging bottoms. That is it. And he's a dick. Because of that story, he gets banished and starts annoying Hades. Bear in mind, he's got a wife called Psyche as well. So it's their relationship of how she's got to control Cupid, but she's struggling because he's got the attention span of a gnat. He won't stop sending her dick pics. He puts bows on it, and I love him. He's just brilliant. So I tried to stick with the generalized mythos, but then after that, it's all mine. I'm changing it how I want it. So, but yeah, Cupid's my man. Him and Pedro.
Him and his Pedro. All right. So we'll come back to the question from our audience after. But Sherilyn, do you want to answer the current one?
So I think I stick mostly. I do the basics. I read everything up on them, and then I go wherever the hell I want to go with them. Just whatever the story wants or needs. Like there's a bunch of different myths along the same line, but then you'll find different versions of that same myth. So I think it makes it fun to pick and choose where you want from each piece and just combine them into something. And so that's what I try and do. Yeah, I did. Loki is probably one of my favorite characters in way, because being a Norse and god, he was so ambivalent to either side, so he could do pretty much anything you want with him. So I think that that made it a lot of fun to write him, because I could just do anything. If you read back on him, there's so many things of right and wrong, and he just kind of goes wherever the hell he wants. So yeah, I kind of do both. Stick to it and go off of it.
Nice. So we had a question from the audience asking, who was your favorite character to write? So Sherilyn, you just said Loki. Is there any other, or that's your final answer?
It's usually whoever I'm writing at the time is my favorite. But he was probably my favorite god to write, for sure.
Awesome. What about you, Alexa? Which one was your favorite to write?
I mean, Sherilyn has a good point. Whatever you're writing in the moment is probably like where your heart's at that very moment, right? So, but my favorite character throughout all my series, I don't have many, so I'm making it sound bigger than it is, but I have to say Hecate or Hecate, depending on how you want to pronounce it. She doesn't have her own book yet, but she's prevalent throughout my Dread Dynasty series, which incidentally, the next and last book of the series comes out this month. And I'm working on the second series that happens. And Hecate is always kind of woven into it because she's the Archduchess of Hell. And I love her. I love the concept of an ancient goddess being the daughter of Lucifer, who's basically in control of hell because her dad's kind of like a nihilistic, nothing matters, I'm just going to be a depressed bum kind of person. And she comes out as this like, she's millennia old, and she's like, you know what, all I want is to go to my bedroom and drink champagne, and your scheming is really interfering with the life that I would like to have. And she's just consistently this badass who, even though she has all the languages in the world, comes up with like the most ludicrous swear words, and I just have fun with her. Now, is she going to be that way when I get to her own book, when she's facing adversities to herself? I don't know, but I do like plopping her in through my books. I find her fascinating. And I also really like the clothes that I give her. And I'll be scrolling on Instagram looking at like whatever, and then I'll see like a red evening gown, and then I have to tell my readers like, oh my God, you guys, don't you just see Hecate in this dress? Like, I love her. She's I don't know. She's just this woman who's very much herself. She's very strong. She's very self-assured. And I guess the reason why I like her so much is because, fuck, why can't I be like that? Why can't I be so self-possessed and like in control of my environment and powerful? You know, I think that it speaks to the woman power I wish that I could wield as well as like an ancient goddess. But that's, you know, that's probably just my own wounds talking. And I have to say, Marianne, I feel like you and I are soul sisters. A lot of the stuff that you say about your history, I'm like, hey, girlfriend, yes, absolutely. And also, Jen, want to just tell you that you are hilarious, and I will never not think of Pedro anymore.
I think we all have to read the Jen story now about Cupid and Pedro. Sounds hilarious. Jennifer, which was your favorite character to write?
Sorry, it wouldn't pop up so I could unmute. I was like, what the hell's going on? I don't know that I have a favorite. Like, unlike most people, the one I'm writing is the one I hate the most. I get so freaking tired of them. I can't get them to do crap, and I'm just over them. But as for a favorite, I don't think I have one. It doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't kind of work like that for me. So.
What about a villain? Is there a favorite villain?
100%. The professor from Can You Protect Them is my absolute favorite person to ever write, and I'm so excited I get to go back to him in the third book. Sheri's not thrilled. I can already see her shaking her head at me, but I can't wait.
See, you just think different. That's awesome. That makes you you. So great. So Jen, you talked about Cupid and Pedro. Is there any other character that you really enjoyed, or?
Cupid will always have my heart, and I think it's because a part of me deep inside is Cupid. If I was a guy, I probably wouldn't stop touching my penis, and I would talk to it because, well, it's going to be your best friend, isn't it? Yeah, so the Cupid is probably me at some point. So if you ever see me in joggers walking around with glitter all over me, I'm channeling Cupid. My other one was Hades. I loved giving Hades his story, and in my head he was just this sexy, powerful, clueless dude who had no idea how to talk to women and was actually asking Cupid for advice on how to go on a date and didn't know what he was doing. And I just thought that was really endearing. But yeah, I think Cupid wins hand down. And I know a few people, I know some of my readers absolutely adore Cupid because he's so stupid, and I do swear a lot in that book. But then you've got the other flip side of apparently it's too vulgar because he does swear a lot. And he comes up with stupid things like when he, in the part of the story, he walks through the door and goes, "Honey, I'm home. My sausage wants in its roll," and things like that. And he's the king of, he says moist and things like that. So I think that's why I love him, because you don't hold back with him, and he gets away with it because he's Cupid. So yeah, he's mine.
Awesome. Marianne?
I agree with everybody else that my favorite character is the one that I'm writing at the time, but I have different favorite characters from different series. But since we're talking mythology, I will stick to My Soul to Keep, which is my Angels and Demons book. And you know, other than my main character, whose name happens to be Alexa, I have to say I have to like. There's three. There's Samuel, who was a fallen angel because he decided to follow Lucifer, or as I call him, Luce, in the book. And then he realizes that he killed the love interest that was between Michael and Lucifer because he bought into a lie. So as she's dying, he keeps one of the feathers from her wings, and it's stained with her blood. And now that he's fallen and he's on Earth, he kind of self-harms because it's the only way that he can kind of numb the pain. And he does it with her feather. He stabs himself, and he wears these fingerless gloves to kind of hold the scar. So, he's got his own arc, and if I ever decide to finish the series, he will definitely get his own story because he's definitely worthy of redemption, considering he was duped. But the other two are Lilith and Yuki. They're both demons. Lilith is not the big, great mother goddess, mother evil that in a lot of other mythologies. I've made her just kind of like an underling. And they're just kind of... she and Yuki, they kind of play off on each other because they're sent to kind of stake out I don't know how is it pronounced. Is it Shion or Sion? Scion? Anyway, who is the last descendant of the 10th choir of angels, the last descendant of Celestine, and she is the one who can reunite heaven and hell and fix the rift between heaven and hell. So they're sent to stake her out, and they're just too funny together. So it was fun kind of watching them play off each other. So those are my favorites for this particular series. So thanks.
Wow, nice. All right, let's go with a weird question. Let's see where this goes. Is there any story idea that you have considered, but you had to face morphology or social acceptance concern? Let you think about that one. You see, everyone has like deep thoughts. Marianne, do you have something for us?
Yeah. I guess it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I took a class with Angela Knight called brainstorming to something or other. Anyway, I forget. But it was basically how to brainstorm a story and, make sure that, it came to fruition. So the story that I came up with had to do with the Vatican, and and again, I'm getting out all this stuff that from when I grew up and whatnot, and it had demons in it, and as I wrote it, it was getting so I guess really, really political and really anti organization of the church and so forth. And I had really wanted it to turn out to be like something like Dan Brown, but it didn't work out that way. So I had to shelve it because it really would have caused a problem. And, and so I just wrote it for myself, and it's still sitting on my computer somewhere. And if I ever decide to, tamp it down and tone it down, I could put it out. But it's, I even bought a book about the head exorcist for the Vatican, and I learned some things about him and how he had claimed that there were demons walking the halls of the Vatican, and that was something that I was like, okay, see, I'm not wrong, but at the same time, I just can't. I'll have people burning shit on my front lawn, so I just can't. So yeah, so that was fun.
Perfect. Jen?
To be honest, not really, not as yet. I think I'm still stupidly early in my career, and I have really good mentors in the sense that they will steer me away from things that I shouldn't go near. Like, no, Jen, let's go down this path instead. You write your weird crap over there where it's safe. I think it's I don't like confrontation, be it in real life or in books. I don't deal well with angst in books or films. I'm like, oh no, I can't deal with that. If the dog dies, I'm out. Gone. Out the door. But yeah, not as yet in my career, but we will see in the future.
All right, Jennifer. You often have great ideas like that. Come on.
Honestly, when you asked the question, I messaged Sheri. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I'm so confused. But I was able to gather it from your answers. So thank you, ladies, for that, for making me feel less stupid. Honestly, I think I mentioned this before in another call. If somebody tells me not to do something, I'm going to do it just because you told me I couldn't. And then I do that in more than my writing. My husband once told me not to dye my hair black, so I went and bought the dye and did my hair black. So that's my personality. I was told I wasn't allowed to kill animals, and sorry, readers, it's coming. And I was told I can't kill kids, and yeah, that might be coming too. So for me, it's you tell me I'm not going to do something, I'm going to push the button. I don't want to be limited, and if you don't like it, find something else. I'm okay with that too. I don't know. I guess I haven't gotten that first negative response bad enough that makes me question it. So until I do, I guess I'm just going to keep pushing it when I can.
Can I be the first to give you that negative response then? Don't kill animals or kids, you dumbass.
With me then.
So another part of the question was like, if you had any idea that wouldn't work in the morphology. Let's say you're writing a centaur, and then you think about writing a sex scene, and you're like, well, I can't really have someone have sex with a horse part, and yeah, so that kind of question. Any ideas like that?
I think when it comes to sex and shifters, I have limits, but anything beyond that, it's the point of having your own world. Do what you want, try new things. The whole point is everybody can write the same, like we can all write werewolves and you can get 7 different takes on it because that's what makes it unique and fun. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to take a chance and change the things the way you want it to be. Just, yeah, I don't recommend having sex while they're in their animal form, though.
Good. Sherilyn?
I can tell you I am really questioning finishing these books with that series with Jennifer now. I'm scared. I don't know that I've really done anything too out there controversial. I mean, some would say just writing MM would be enough. So I try to do just stuff that doesn't gross me out, basically. So yeah, animal sex would definitely not be something I'd be into, but to each their own. Doesn't mean I won't write it, but doesn't mean other people can't. That kind of thing,
Alexa, any weird ideas that didn't come to fruition?
I mean, what are you talking about here? Do you want to know like more like on the sexual spectrum or more just like plot lines and ideas?
It can be plot lines or ideas. It's basically you thought you had a great idea and then you realize that's not going to work. Either people are socially not going to accept that or physically it doesn't work,
Okay, well, I guess I'm going to say the whole like shifter sex thing, I'm not even touching that because that makes me hella uncomfortable. Like that whole bestiality possibility is just like, yikes, no, ick, gross. So no. However, when it comes to more, let's say like ruffling feathers with other kinds of ideas about like, hey, maybe Satan's the good guy, like that kind of stuff, that is very like, maybe in this circle we're like, oh, that's nothing, like whatever. It's just a question we ask ourselves. But if you look outside of like our own little circle who is like, yeah, that's totally fine, like there are other people out there who are like, what the fuck are they doing? No, that is wrong. That's why I'm not reading these books or these romance authors or this urban fantasy. Like we face adversity just because we are women writing books about love and sex. So I think that just in what we write, we face some kind of adversity where people are like, it's just romance, it doesn't matter, like that kind of like snobby attitude. So I think that like, hey man, we're rebel rousers just by being here, so hurrah for us. But beyond that, I mean, like, I'm a weirdo. Like I like weird shit. And I'm, again, not sexually, but like, if you tell me like, hey, so there's this myth about this creature who was down in like the abyss of the earth, I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, let's say that this creature comes out and let's say that like I have to kill a few priests to get the story going. I'm going to do it. Like of course, like I don't do this in my romance, but like when I start to expand in my horror and urban fantasy books, like people are going to see more of that flavor of my writing. But, sometimes when I tell my husband some storylines I have in my head, he's like, Alexa, please think about this. Our house is going to be bombarded. Like people are going to send you hate mail. You can't write this. And I'm like, yeah, I can because it's in my head, like if I'm thinking about it, I'm not the only one thinking about it. Like, if we abide by that whole theory of like everyone, all of our consciousness are connected, Well, then someone else out there has had the same idea or the same sort of ideas as me. So if I write the damn book, someone's going to want to read it somewhere, you know? It's just, instead of talking into the void, find your audience and talk to them instead of listening to the negative back talk. You know, like I think it was Marianne who mentioned like facing a lot of like uncertainty about your own identity. Like, hey, like I was bullied within an inch of my life in high school. Like I contemplated suicide multiple times. The only thing that got me through was writing. And now that that's my job, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pour everything I have into this because it kept me alive. And I love this stuff. And if I want to be weird, I'm going to be weird, because maybe what makes me weird is actually what makes my writing good. It's what pulls people in. It's my weirdness. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's my spiel.
Hooray for weirdness. All right, so not much time left. We have a question from Kimberly, and at the same time, if you can tell us where everyone can reach you, find you, what you're working on, and what last words you'd like to put in. So Kimberly's question is, favorite myth you like to play around with, and one that you tweaked and was like, damn, this is going to be so good. So let's go with Marianne.
My favorite mythology that I like to play with has to be vampires. My vampires, I love them. If I could bring them into this world, or take me and put me in their world, and provided that I was somebody that they wanted to have around, you know, and didn't want to decide to make me a snack, then I just, when I wrote Twice Cursed, which is the first real vampire book in my Cursed by Blood series, because the first book is more werewolves and shifters and so forth. But when I wrote that, I actually gave myself chills, because, and if I had to, you know, if I had to say any book of mine that is my absolute favorite and the book that I feel the most proud, it would have to be Twice Cursed. I absolutely adore that book. And, you know, because of it, I was a quarterfinalist in the Amazon Breakthrough Novel Award contest back in the day. So, you know, I got a great Publishers Weekly, review from it. So that's the one that's the mythology that I absolutely am the most proud of. I mean, not that I don't love my angels and my demons and my witches, because they are me as well. But that's the one. That's it. My vamps. So vamp girl.
If I was a vampire, I definitely want you around. I want you around regardless. So there you go. So Jen.
To be honest, my Soulmate series, my Greek mythos, I am the most proud of, because it was my debut series. Soul Kiss was my first book, in a world that I had no clue what I was doing. Man, 6 years ago, no clue. Still not got a clue, but hey ho, I'm winging it. To give the Greek gods their story, to make them more human, to have them more relatable, is something that I thoroughly enjoy. And one of the stories that I am hoping to write, I've not written it yet, unfortunately. There's hopefully going to be 10 books in the Soulmate series. I'm currently on book 4. And I think book 6 or 7 is my take on Medusa. That bitch has had such a bad rap. You know, oh, she kills men, she turns them to stone. Well, I'd be pissed if I got raped as well, you know. So she's getting a happy ever after. I'm sorry, she's getting a good one. So I'm thrilled about doing her story. Just got to fit that into the schedule. You can find me on Facebook, J Thompson Novels, Soulmate Novels, on Tinterweb, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, email. Hell, I'm here. Come find me. And I'm currently working on Badgers Don't Ride Horses for the Evil Evs World FUC Academy. So, woohoo!
Awesome. But don't we all turn men to stone anyways? Maybe another kind of stone.
Can I just jump back in, because I forgot to tell people how to find me?
Of course.
All of my books are in Kindle Unlimited, or you can download them on and for sale on Amazon. I have pulled them off from being wide. So if you don't have the Kindle app, there's a free one. You can download that to whatever device and read my books on KU. I am just finished a book for Robin Peterman's Magic and Mayhem series. It's called Big Girls Don't Scry, and it will be released for the world on June 22nd. So yeah, it's Marianne at mariannemorea.com, or just for an email. I mean, Marianne at Marianne Morea, yeah, and mariannemorea.com. You can just hit me up that way, for whatever you want. That I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and on Pinterest too. So
awesome, and I'm sure we'll be adding all the links to the video and stuff too, right? Jennifer?
I think the zombies that I wrote was my favorite, just because I love reading them, and I love the classic zombies, like the dystopian horror stuff. I love that aspect, but I also love being able to turn it on its head and do something completely different. And I look forward to other myths and just taking them and turning them and doing what I want with them. But I think zombies are my favorite, just because I still love to read them, and I don't know that I'll ever write them again. I actually have started a dystopian with zombies, but I keep stopping because I think of my Black Hollow zombie and how they're sweet and kind, so now I'm having trouble writing them to be brain eating, so it kind of sucks.
And where can we find you?
Usual social media, Facebook, everything's under this name, so you can find me pretty much everywhere. I've got all the sites, I just don't go on all of them.
Awesome.
Alexa. I tell my clients to use all these social medias, and I'm like, do as I say, not as I do. Just
duly noted. Alexa?
Okay, so remind me, the first part of the question was, sorry, I'm blonde. I guess I'm gonna blame it on that.
It was asked which myth hold on.
Which myth did you most like playing with, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so for me, it's always going to be hell. Always, 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 always. Satan and Lucifer and that whole mythology of the fall and the war. I love that so much. I find it fascinating that depending on whether it's the the Judeo-Christian one or all the other denominations and how they kind of twist things around, I find it fascinating. I love reading about it, and I love being kind of finding the common thread and seeing how humanity has dealt with it. And I don't know, I just find it fascinating to write a bad guy that everyone kind of hates, but I love, maybe because of my own personal stuff. But anyway, for me, it's like I said, it's going to be hell. But the book that I'm most proud of is not even in hell. It's actually my witch, Satine, probably because in her story, I interwoven so much of my own trauma, and writing that book actually became a cathartic experience. And one of my readers, who's actually watching right now, kind of said like, oh, you really address the PTSD really well. Well, it's because I kind of poured my own PTSD in the character. So, although hell is my favorite place to write, my witch is kind of like where my heart is. And I really enjoyed writing it, even though it was fucking hard. I cried so much. People can find me on Facebook. I also have a readers group called Alexa's Baddies. So that's Batties, like a bat, Batties. Find me. I'm very active on the group. I post a lot of fun stuff, and I also post a lot of stuff about like demon lore, witch lore, all that kind of stuff, because I studied it in university. I'm obsessed with it. Why not share the knowledge? I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Find me. Let's chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Sherilyn.
Okay, so my favorite would be my first series I wrote, the Safe Haven series. I think it's where I faced a lot of my personal demons, and so I put them into the story and just kind of helped me get rid of things, and I think that's why. It's going to be 8 books, and I'm releasing book 5 and 6, I think, this year. I keep getting lost where I met in the series, but I think that's right. And if any of my readers are on here, they're going to throw a fit because they claim these guys as theirs, and they don't like it when I get confused on them. It's kind of scary at times. But my favorite myth is one that I just finished working on. It's actually coming out in like 2 weeks. It's my Black Hollow story. It's called Blessing in Disguise. He's a hippocampus from Scotland. So that's all I'm going to say about it because it's kind of fun. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this story. I got to go to Scotland when I was in high school, and I think it just fell in love with everything about Scotland.
And where can we find you?
Oh, yes. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. I've got a website. I'm all over the place. I'm very kind of quiet at times online, but I'm always around. It just may take me a minute to respond. But yeah, I'm still here.
Awesome. Well, this concludes this panel. Thank you, everyone, for sharing, and stay tuned for more RTC panels. I'm sure we'll see you around.
Bye,
And
everybody.
Thank you guys. Miss you guys.
Take
It's been so
care.
long.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.